opens down. So when we have a question that involves a parabola opening down, and we want something to do with the maximum, aren't we looking for the vertex? Right? So how do we find a vertex? Negative b over 2a. That's a question more than once on this exam review. Negative b over 2a. So negative 64 over negative 32 is 2. So the x coordinate or the t coordinate is 2. How do I find the y coordinate? Plug it in. So 2 squared. I think this is where I made a mistake, because this is supposed to be 66. That's supposed to be 66. Now we got two numbers, that's the vertex, and we got two questions here. Find the maximum height. When does it reach the maximum height? Well, which is which? What does t stand for? Time. So your t variable is the when, right? When does it reach its highest point? 2 seconds. Y is the height variable. How high does it go? 66 feet. Okay, Abby? All right, who else? Number 11 on the main review. The big review that's all packed in there. Okay, guys, this is on the Algebra I exam. This exact type of problem is on the Algebra I exam. It is also on the Algebra II exam. You need to solve this somehow. So you've done it 3 years in a row. So you've got to have some recollection of how to solve it. First thing, the 7's got to go to the other side. No matter how you solve it, that's how you got to start. You got to get that moved to the other side. The Algebra I students are all going to write 4x minus 3 equals 8, 4x minus 3 equals negative 8. And they're going to solve those two equations, and that's going to be the answer. We're going to leave it at that. Get it done. All right, who else?
Can you do 14 on the main review?
This is not on the Algebra I exam. We've got a function whose roots are 1 and 2i. And you need to write the equation. What is the equation? So this is exactly like the graphing one we did before. Only I didn't give you a graph, I just gave you the points. So how do we start? Setting up the factors. So this will be x minus 1. This will be x minus 2i. And then you have to remember that if 2i is a root, so is negative 2i. Imaginary roots always come in pairs. So you'll never have just one. You'll always have its conjugate with it. So positive 2i, we're going to have negative 2i. So here are the factors, just like we had before, except this time we have to multiply it out. So where would you suggest I start? Huh? Yeah, we're going to start right here. Now, in the end, it's not going to matter. You can start wherever you want, but it's going to be easier here because stuff's going to cancel. remember that I squared is -1. So that's really just x squared plus 4 times our x minus 1. And there is your polynomial. All right, what else? Who else found one? Izzy?
Maybe do number 5 on the mini review.
On the mini review, number 5. You tried it?
Yeah.
Well, now wait a minute, let's not make more of this than it is. What kind of an equation is this? Quadratic. How do we solve quadratic equations? We can use the quadratic formula, right? If it factors, I could factor it. I don't think this one factors. So then we'll have to use the formula probably. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
31.
Negative 31. So 3 plus or minus I root 31 over 4. Who else has one? Abby?
Can you do 1 on the mini review?
Have you tried it?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I tried multiplying all the bottom ones together, all the denominators. I cancel it out.
Okay. That's what I would do. I would multiply everything by x and x plus 1, x and x plus 1, x and x plus 1, and x and x plus 1. Multiply every single thing by the common denominator, which is x and x plus 1. All right, why would I do that?
Those are all like terms on top.
Well, I'm gonna cancel all these denominators out.
Yeah.
These are gone. So now I just have an equation that looks like this. So I have x minus 3, x plus 1, minus 3x plus 3 equals 0. Because when we multiply by 0, doesn't really matter what I multiply by, I'm still gonna have 0. All right, now what should I do?
Combine.
FOIL. So I can collect my terms. Clean it up and solve it.
So, x squared minus 5x plus 0.
Yeah, so just equals 0.
And then plus 5x to the other side and divide by x.
No. When we have a quadratic equation, we want it set equal to 0. Don't be messing with that. So what do I do with this one?
Quadratic.
Lillian?
Do you pull an x out?
I would factor it. Now your options are factor it or use the quadratic formula, which you could use, but this one is so easy to factor, like you said. We'll just factor it. So x is either 0 or 5. Now we do need to be alert on these kinds of problems though, because we can have extraneous roots. Can x be 0? No. So the only answer to the problem is 5. You are never allowed to have a 0 in the denominator. You are never allowed to have a 0 in the denominator. Okay? This is going to be a multiple choice question on the exam. One of the answers will probably say x equals 0, x equals 5. To trip you up, right? Pay attention. Pay attention.
What's number 3 on the review?
On the main review?
Yes.
Cross it out. This has some chapter 4 stuff on it. So, real quick, you're not responsible for that. You're not responsible for 5. On the additional exam review, which is the main review, that page, not responsible for number 3 or 8. On the mini review, not responsible for 14 or 9. Yeah. So basically, anything that involves an angle, you're not responsible for. I'm sure you know we're way behind. So in years past, we've gotten to some trigonometry. We're not there. So let's cross those off. You're not on the exam. Do not worry. One thing this board knows how to do is cut and paste. I'm good at cut and pasting.
Are you number 13 on the interview?
Number 13. Alright, so let's just graph this thing. What's this look like when I graph it? It's kind of backwards of the one you did first. What's this look like when I graph it? There's a dot at -4. Where else? Oh, it's just 5 and 1. 1 and 5. What are these points called? Those are the x-intercepts. So it says, what are the x-intercepts? Boom, boom, boom. There they are. Those are the x-intercepts. What is the y-intercept? Plug in 0 for x. I don't care what kind of equation it is. Finding a y-intercept, you'll let x be 0. So if we let x be 0, I get 80. So my y-intercept is 80. What's this thing look like? Let's sketch it. It's even. So it starts up, ends up. She says it's even because it's x to the 4th, right? So it starts up here. What's it do when it hits this point? Bounces. What's it do when it hits that point? Goes through. What's it do when it hits this one? Goes through. So there's your picture. There's your sketch. Now, where is the graph tangent to the x-axis? Tangent means it bounces off. It just touches. Where does that happen? -4. This is where we bounce off. This is called a point of tangency. It's tangent at that point, bounces off. Like this is a calculator problem, see a little star. So I need to have a calculator. On the exam, the calculator problems are free response. So they're like regular test questions. They're not multiple choice. So who knows how to do this? This is totally a calculator problem. Who knows how to do it? Uh-oh. Somebody better come up with something. How do we do a regression on our calculator? We go into stat edit. First of all, we need to recognize we got some ordered pairs in the problem. There are some ordered pairs. 1, 1, 3, 4, and 4, 11. Those are the ordered pairs that are in the problem. So then we go to stat edit. We put those in as L1 and L2. Right? Get them in. We go to stat calc and then choose, in this case, quadratic regression. And once you do that, it will give you an equation. Who has an equation for this? What is the equation it gives you for this? What did you say, negative?
No, 1.8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just saying
1.8x squared?
Plus negative 5.83 x plus 5.
Okay. So there's the equation that came out. If you don't know what we're talking about, you need to get into for office hours, or you need to find a friend. Okay? We already went through all this. Once we get that equation, then we can answer the question. By the way, I'll be here tomorrow morning and Wednesday morning. And Thursday morning. I guess your exam's Thursday, isn't it? So, tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, and Thursday morning. How many detentions will Nate get if he has 5 minutes late? What will I need to do?
You plug in the 5 in the
I need to plug in 5 here. Because I'm trying to figure out what happens with X is 5. Alright, so go ahead and do that. Get your calculator out. Take this equation and plug 5's in. Colin, get your calculator out. This is not a spectator sport. Drew, where's your calculator? What? I'm not sure that's right. Let's try again. We're putting 5 in here.
That's what I got. I'm not gonna say it.
What did you say? Oh, I thought you said 1.85. 20.85, yeah, so about 21. So we're gonna get about 21. Right? All right, and then the last question is kind of weak, actually. What is the minimum number of detentions that he can receive? The point I'm trying to make here is, what kind of an equation is this? If you graphed this, what would it be? A parabola opening up. And if it's a parabola opening up, and we are looking for a minimum, then what are we looking for?
Zero.
No, we're not looking for a zero. We're looking for the vertex. You guys, the minimum is the low point of the parabola. Isn't the low point of a parabola opening up the vertex? Just like the high point of a parabola opening down is the vertex. There are several vertex questions on the test, but it doesn't say find the vertex. You have to realize that if you're finding a maximum of a quadratic, it's the vertex. If you're finding the minimum of a quadratic, it's the vertex. Okay? Now, let's find the vertex. How do we find the vertex of this? We're already done it once today. How do we find it? No, we're not doing this graphically. How do we do it without the calculator? Negative b over 2a. So you may need a calculator for the arithmetic. But a lot of these problems are not calculators, so you need to remember negative b, and it's about 1.6. So again, this is not a very well designed problem. So the minimum would be about 1 detention, but the point isn't that question. The point is the minimum of a parabola opening up is the vertex. That's what you gotta remember. It isn't gonna say find the vertex of the parabola. It's not gonna say that. It's gonna say find the minimum. So you gotta say, ooh, that's a parabola. The minimum is gonna be the vertex. Okay? All right. Who else has one? Again, I need everybody participating. Some of you don't know what's going on because you spent all year watching. You gotta do. 24. A function is defined parametrically. What A says is find the point where t is 0. So what would be our point if t is 0? How would we figure that out? Exactly, Alexis. Come on, you guys, engage your brain. No, it's been a long day, but if somebody tells you t is 0, plug in 0. So what's the point if we put in 0 for the t? -1, +3. Now, could we do the same thing if it said find the point of t is 1, and 2, and -1, and -2? We could do as many points as we wanted, right? Hang on to that thought. May be valuable. All right. Now, write the Cartesian equation by eliminating the parameter. Don't get bogged down in the arithmetic or in the vocabulary. Cartesian means x and y. Eliminating the parameter means no t. Get rid of the t. So who remembers how to do this? Exactly. Exactly. So what Alexis is saying is solve for t. So t is y -3. And then we're going to plug that guy in right there. So x equals y -3 squared -1. What are the variables in that equation? X and Y, that's Cartesian, X and Y. Is there any T in there?
No.
Done, we eliminated it, that's our answer. How did we eliminate it? We just substituted it out. All right, now we have to graph this. Now, a minute ago, you told me that you could find as many points as you wanted. We only found one, because that's all it told us to find, specifically. But you said we could find some others, right? How are we gonna find some other points? What were we going to do? Let T be 1? Well, what happens if we let T be 1?
0.
And? So 0, 4? All right, what happens if we let T be 2?
X would be 3, and then 1 is 5.
So you said 3, 5? All right, let's do -1. What happens if we let T be -1? If you do arithmetic, I'm not doing it for you. Put in -1 for the T's. What do you get? 0 and 2. Let's put in one more. Let's put in 1 for T. If I put in, did I already put in 1? Let's put in -1. I'm sorry. Let's put in -1. What do I get if I put in -1?
You just did that one.
Oh, I just did that one. All right, so
Yeah,
let's put in
-2.
-2. I should be keeping track of them here. What do I get when I put in -2?
3 and 1.
3, 1. Now, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Could I do more? I need as many as I need, right? Is that enough for you to see what this picture looks like? Looks like that. Why does that make sense?
It's a parabola.
Isn't this the equation of a parabola? Now, it's different
It's reversed.
because it's y squared, and our BFF is x squared. But that's why it's a parabola opening sideways. Now, if you recognize that, you didn't need to plot all those points. But what I want you to see is, you can always generate a graph, if you're confused, by simply plotting points. Plot enough points, you'll have your picture. All right, what else? Come on. Y'all supposedly did a bunch of problems, got a bunch of questions. Hiring? 30. Consider the exponential function. Now, guaranteed, you're gonna have to do something like this, answer some kind of questions about one of your BFFs. It may not be the exponential function. But before I start answering, I'm gonna graph the exponential so I have it in front of me. What's the BFF look like, or what's the exponential look like? Show me in the air. You see some really funky things. The exponential looks like this. So if that's the shape you did, then you were right. Whoops. If that's not the shape you did, then you gotta study your BFX. Because you can't really answer these questions if you don't have a visual of it. All right, domain. You need to speak up on 62.
Negative infinity to infinity.
All right, negative infinity to infinity.
And then range is 0 up to infinity.
Perfect.
And yes, it's continuous.
Yes, it is continuous on its entire domain. Does it have any asymptotes? Yes, it does. That is an asymptote. So it has an asymptote of equals 0.
Increasing.
Not all of your BFFs have asymptotes, but this one does. It is increasing on its entire domain. Is it bounded? On the bottom, we call that bounded below. It has a floor, in other words. So it's bounded below at y equals 0. That's its floor. It does not have a ceiling. And behavior. And again, we're using correct notation.
As x goes into infinity, y goes to infinity.
Exactly. As you go to the right, positive infinity is that way, guys. As you go that way, you're simply going up. What happens as you go the other way?
Negative, so it decreases.
You're going closer to 0 from the top. You're approaching 0 from the top. And extrema. No, we don't have any. By extrema, we mean tops of hills and bottoms of valleys. So if you think about the absolute value function, it has a minimum, right? That's an extrema. If you think about your sine and cosine, they have lots of hills and lots of valleys. This one does not. No max. No min.
What would you do for the, sine and cosine?
Not asking you that question. Won't ask you that. I will in chapter 4, but not yet. You just need to know the shapes right now of those. All right? You need to be able to do that with your other BFFs. I would say the other common BFFs, which would be which ones? Absolute value, quadratic, linear, cubic, square root, logarithmic.
Natural log.
The logarithmic is the natural log, yeah. I think I already said absolute value, but if I didn't, absolute value. I wouldn't worry about this for the weird ones, like logistic, greatest integer, sine, cosine. I wouldn't worry about function analysis for those, but definitely for the common ones. So if you forgot what they look like, get your flashcards out. All right, who else? Abby?
For number 2 on the main review, that's f of negative 3i, are you just plugging that into the new equation?
Yep, you just plug it in. So f of negative 3i would be 2 times negative 3i squared minus negative 3i plus 1. Just like any other function problem. You take out the x and plug in whatever they tell you to plug in.
So you wouldn't plug it into the new equation of f, like plugging in x minus 2?
Now, those are two separate problems.
Okay.
They're two separate problems. So it goes back to the original. PEMDAS tells me to square, that's gonna be 9i squared. What's 9i squared?
18. Negative.
Negative 18. Well, 9i squared is negative 9, times 2 is negative 18, plus 3i plus 1. So your answer would be negative 17 plus 3i. Okay, last call. Then you're on your own. You'll have to bring them up to me after you try them. Sophia?
It's just a simple question on the mini exam. For the letters from the logarithm,
What?
are you gonna, for number 6, the letters from the logarithm?
Uh-huh.
Are you gonna pick that by E, or are you gonna just combine them?
You're just gonna combine them.
Okay.
So it's ln 7q squared over c. Using our properties of logarithms. It says write as a logarithm, so that's what we're gonna do. All right. You know what you need to do.